Welcome to the Emily the Mystic Show. You're about to walk through a portal that leads to all things mystical, magical, spiritual, and supernatural. I'm your host, Emily. I'm a spiritual mentor, an Akashic Records practitioner and teacher, an intuition development coach, and a galactic channeler. If you're an old soul on a self-discovery and healing journey, you are in the right place. We'll be diving in deep to some of my favorite mystical topics, including manifestation, past lives, the spirit world, energy, and so much more. Get ready to embrace your inner mystic and live your most authentic life possible. The portal is now open. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting and magical episode of the Emily the Mystic Show podcast. I cannot wait to introduce you to today's mystical guest because she is amazing. She's accomplished so much in her life, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. So welcome to the amazing Kristin. Kristin is a body, mind, and soul mentor who lovingly leads beautiful souls to achieve the somatic emotions they long for, while expanding the ecstatic love and liberated wholeness of their true self. Kristin uses creative collisions between neuroscience and consciousness to intimately understand inner realities and create powerful transformation at the foundational depths of body, mind, and soul. She developed these original modalities through her self-led Implicit Revelations Case Study. Through over 20,000 hours and 5+ years of deep research and self-healing, she gradually created the Trifecta Treasure Trove models, which are now shared through a collection of products and services to serve and support the journey of others across the globe. So welcome, Kristin, to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. So grateful and honored to be here and connect.
And where are you located? Where are you in the world?
Right now, I'm in San Martin, California, kind of in the middle-ish of the state, near the coast. Just absolutely beautiful. Very grateful to be here.
We love it. And how is your summer going? What is bringing you joy in your life right now? We would love to know.
Reconnecting with the essence of all that I am for the first time in my life. Nothing tops that.
That's magical. We love to hear it.
Yes. Yeah. And all the ways that takes form. Like if I go to a concert, the experience is so different from anything I've ever experienced in my life because of the union of body, mind, soul. And to even like look at other people and they're just, I'm at a concert and it's an average thing and, scrolling through their phone and just very disembodied. And I'm just like, do you feel the vibration of every instrument coursing through your veins? Like, it's just,
wow.
It's so beautiful to experience. What we'll talk about today is the somatic emotions and how it impacts her life in the most magical, transcendent, beautiful way. And we get to really expand into the fullness of all that we are.
Oh, yes. I love that. I can't wait to dive in. And how would you describe how you felt in the past versus how you feel now and what that sort of, juxtaposition of the different realities you've been through?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you describe that?
That's a beautiful question. So if it's all right, then I'll use that as a segue to share a little bit about the journey.
Absolutely.
So the entirety of life until very recent days was basically the definition of hell in a lot of ways, and just the greatest intensity of somatic separation from the authentic essence of the true self. And that began with early life trauma that was suppressed, wasn't known about until recent days. And then it led to all these really complex health challenges that started during like early childhood, early teenagehood, compounded into later life. By early 20s, it was just like disabling, like absolutely disabling. And it was just like, this is the worst of the worst. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, night terrors, dissociation, psychosis, mind-body disconnect, dysregulation, just bombarding thoughts, disconnection from what you feel in your body. And of course, along with like the actual health challenges is like the programming of that lower dimension of you're a limited human being, not worthy of expanding. And, you're required to fit in a box that is a small box and a very unpleasant box to exist within. And so it's just everything accumulated. And then by the time my brain finished developing, mid-20s, it was in complete collapse. About 7 years ago, lost the ability to create new conscious memories because of compounding complex trauma. There had just been so many things, multiple physical assaults, sexual assaults, relational traumas. I mean, everything under the sun, compounding everything that had been going on for 10 years. And after being in the traditional system of, psychiatrists and therapists and everything, over 100 doctors had been like, I'm sorry, this is incurable, irredeemable. There's nothing we can do. You've literally exhausted everything we have to offer in every system that we possibly have across like multiple states and counties. And it was just like, that's it. That's the end. Like, you've done it all. You've tried it all. It failed. Didn't work. You're permanently broken. Nothing can ever help you. And then compounding trauma had led to anterograde amnesia, a very severe trauma-related anterograde amnesia, where the brain and the body neurophysiologically could not create new memories. And so there's no memory of moment-to-moment, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month experiences, which obviously led to more dissociation and anxiety and all of the disruption. And it got to a point where, after multiple failed like suicide attempts, like, I can't do this anymore status, it was like, okay, well, I kind of have no choice but to become my own hero. And that was kind of a mantra that catalyzed this journey is, okay, I'm in the journey of becoming my own hero. I'm being my own hero. And so in 2017, my inner evolutionary hero, or past version of self, quit all of the therapies and psychiatrists and all of it and started teaching herself neuroscience. And within 2 weeks, I'm talking just like YouTube videos, like neuroscience, but that was so out of her paradigm. She'd never heard of neuroscience. She'd never heard of life coaching. She'd never heard of personal development. Like, she'd never heard of like spirituality in like a non-religious frame of reference. Like, she'd never heard of any of these things. It didn't exist within her awareness. And it was so far out of her paradigm. And she was just like mind blown. And within a couple weeks of researching neuroscience, she started learning about what was actually happening in the nervous system dysregulation. Like, 10 years and hundreds of doctors had never mentioned the nervous system. Like, it was just mind blowing, just the basic fundamental things of our existence. And so that began the journey that led me to me now. And so that was kind of the introduction. And then from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, it was massive, intensive self-healing. And it was all inward, because after having, looked externally and found nothing, it was, how can I source my transformation from within? And not coincidentally, that's returning to the source that we are, returning to the source of life, the source of love, the source of the essence of the true self, the source of mind, body, soul unity. And so it was, spiritual awakening and self-healing and personal development and all of it combined. But during that journey, things actually, quite ironically, got worse and worse and worse and worse. Because the deeper you dive, the more comes to surface. And there was a lot that had been hiding, which was what was causing all the symptoms. When you notice something in disarray in your life, it generally has nothing to do with what you're experiencing. And so if you're having dissociation, if you're having psychosis, anxiety, depression, relational issues, work issues, like actual issues in your life, it's only a mirrored reflection of the issues of the inner structures of our subconscious, our body, mind, soul, miracles and energy flows within it. And so you see that surface symptom and it's like, okay, what is this anxiety? Oh, it's because my nervous system has been dysregulated for 25 years. Like, that's kind of a big thing to face. So the deeper that my inner evolutionary hero, or past version of self, dove into her inner journey, the more intense things got, because everything was coming to surface to be transmuted. And so during this time, in total mind-body disconnect, the brain resetting every 5 seconds to 5 minutes, deep, like just dissociation and disconnection. She had been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, which was previously known as like multiple personality disorder. That was renamed in my case study as adaptable consciousness condition, which more effectively describes the neuroscientific miracles of it. And so there's like 20 different states of consciousness that had amnesic barriers between each other. And so what happened over here wasn't known about by the self over here, in addition to the anterograde amnesia and processing these traumas from decades, including suppressed childhood trauma, and then transmuting all these dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds of specific health challenges. And mind-body disconnect, split brain hemispheres, dysregulation, and with the living with alternate states of consciousness and transforming that suppressed childhood trauma. It was the most miraculous and precious experience was dissociative age regression, where manifestations of the inner child literally came forward as their own states of personhood that were separate from the adult self. And sorry, there's background noise. I wanted to make sure it wasn't too bad. And so just going through all that journey, and all of it was done completely alone, very much just 24/7 inner healing. Sorry, is there background noise that you can hear?
No, I just want to ask you a clarifying question, because I think
Yes.
to help the audience understand your journey. So when you're saying you were experiencing multiple different states of consciousness, you were experiencing different personalities and versions of yourself coming through your physical body at any given time.
Yes, that's one way to describe it. And that's probably the simplest way for a reference point to understand it. To have more insight, though, the more accurate way that I would describe it personally, yes, that is a way to understand it, is that imagine that there's the essence of the soul and it's flowing through the brain and the body. And that's what creates your, what could be described as a personality or your sense of self and the human individuation of expression. And so when you're within a unified self, there's trillions of networks and miracles of the brain and the body that are allowing for a unified experience within the soul in its human form. And so when this happens, there's basically this brain body wiring here, no connections. This brain body wiring here, no connections. The brain body wiring here. And their aspects of the soul are flowing through these body mind islands individually, and then experiencing states of navigation and regulation through that. And that comes out as what you can experience as a personality. But I hesitate to use that word just because it has a more superficial connotation to it of like, yeah, it's my personality, the way I am, kind of personally presenting myself, when it's actually the state of like brainwave activity, nervous system regulation, unconscious memories and patterns of feeling of movement that affect your emotions and choices beyond awareness. So there's just a lot more to it. So yeah, that is the way to describe that.
And you weren't able to remember what each version of self was doing at any given time. Is that correct?
For a time period. And she kind of worked with that. She had systems in place to really allow for the flow of that. And so she would take a journal in her written journals and take video notes and recordings and observation and share about all of that. But yeah, there was a lot of amnesic barriers between them.
Wow. And so I noticed that you refer to that version of your life in third person. So is that your way of helping you to kind of separate from that version of that type of time of your life and be able to move forward? Or what does that mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the techniques that's part of the models that I share with my clients, is using the language of self aspects. And so the body mind, and we'll talk about this a little with the somatic emotions, but the body mind does not understand the contextualization, is that a word? The context of time. It knows its energetic activity within the eternity of now. And so when you say, I went through this, the body mind can easily hear, I am this. I am going through this now. This is the association I have with myself. And so I'll finish answering that. Let me share the other piece of my story, and then it'll make sense of what I'm about to share. So that was several years ago. Pardon me, I'm just going to close my windows. There's just this background noise that keeps distracting me. And so after that, went through all that. Once God was able to get to the foundation of transmuting all of the trauma, like the foundational trauma, uncovering the suppressed childhood trauma, transmuting its energies, transforming all of the residual impacts of it, unifying the states of consciousness, breaking down the amnesic barriers, reconstructing the nervous system, rebuilding the brain hemispheres, rewriting the unconscious memories, reunifying all aspects of self across all time, dimension, space, of reality, like literally rebuilding my existence from the ground up. Got to the point of that, allowed all the age regressive states of personhood or consciousness or personality to progress through their halted stages of neurodevelopment, because they were reverting back to being the activity of childhood, because parts of the brain had literally stopped developing at childhood and gotten stuck there, like neurophysiologically, not just like mentally, but in the brain body activity. And so once all the trauma had been transmuted, the age regressive states were able to go through that halted neurodevelopment and neurobiologically grow up and stuff, gradually started to heal the anterograde amnesia. New memories were slowly being created. All of the different mental health diagnoses had achieved like 95% resolution by rewiring the foundation of what had been causing it, like total transformation. Totally was like, wow, like, you know, like that past version of self was like, I did it. Like I went through the impossible. Like there's like 5,000 dark nights of the soul on top of each other. Like I did it. Like I did it all on my own. I've been in this journey, like me, myself, and I 24/7, just totally transforming my life. She couldn't remember any of her life. She couldn't remember the last several years of healing. She couldn't remember those decades. She couldn't remember ever being a teenager besides the dissociative manifestation of it. Couldn't remember anything from child. Couldn't remember having ever like gone to a store or gone to a beach or gone out with a friend or gone to a concert. There was no memory of life whatsoever. And there was no sense of self. So she had written this 500-page book manuscript and was submitting it to all of these publishers. And she's like, these are my ideas. Like they're life-changing. It's the neuroscience of the most misunderstood conditions on the planet. Like here's new models to understand body, mind, soul, and the subconscious. And like the, you know, spiritual awakening of understanding the soul and neuroscience of understanding our inner realities. And then it goes to write the bio. And she's like, why would I have to tell anything about myself? And then she realized, oh, I don't have a sense of self. I can't remember my life. I have no association with my name. I still don't recognize myself in a mirror. 4 years of not being able to recognize the self in a mirror because of all the disconnections. And so that began like this whole new journey in relaunching the case study of like, how do I recover me?
Who am I?
Like, who am I? And then the journey was, I have no interest in remembering my life. My life until now was a glorified trauma response for 20, 30 years. Like I actually have no interest in remembering my life. I'm here to rewrite my life. I'm here to recreate my life. I'm here to begin my life from scratch in a way that's empowered and not disempowered, you know, because if you're like, I have to start my life over, like I have nothing, I've gone through all these, like you can very easily become that victim to circumstance and be in a disempowered state. And I was like, no, this is the first day of my life. It can be anything I want it to be. I have no memory of a self. I can be anyone I choose to be. And the intention that began that was, my purpose every day is to live happily ever after. And at the end of each day, she would write journal prompts and say, today I lived happily ever after. The sky was blue and I was alive to see it. And I got to live happily ever after. I mean, the sky is blue. Like if you ever noticed, you know, I swam laps and I felt full unity in body, mind, soul, stillness in my mind, union with my soul, presence with my body. And I swam laps in a pool. And I lived happily ever after. And that was like the purpose, because there was no self, there was no direction, there was no memory. And so every day it was, how would I live if this was my very first day ever existing? And that goes to that innocent childhood state of like, there's no programming, there's no patterning. Everything is new. Everything is awe. Everything is wonder. Everything is exhilaration. Everything is magic. And even if nothing happens and you're just existing in the day, it's magic. And the other question was every single day, who would I be? How would I show up? How would I live if this was my last day on earth? And that was very helpful because the only way we have a reference point for having a potential tomorrow is for our body mind to remember that there has been a past and then there was a potential tomorrow that is the now. And there was no accumulation of data. So there was no conceptualization of that. It was a very deep practice of presence of this moment is all that exists. There is no past because I literally can't remember it anyway. There is no future because I can't imagine a future ever existing because I have no memory of there having been life before this moment. And so that was a really beautiful time to go through the depths of spiritual awakening and to be like, oh, I'm this infinite eternal soul that chose this before I was born. And the essence of who I am has nothing to do with my body, has nothing to do with my experiences, has nothing to do with anything I've ever gone through, has nothing to do with anything, nothing. And I would go through these marathon practices, eye gazing in mirrors, which was my primary healing modality, which I can share more about later. And there would be 2 hours was usually the length of the practice, sometimes less, sometimes more. I think the longest ones went 6 to 8 hours of just eye gazing in mirrors with back-to-back different practices. And in that time, you experience transcendence beyond anything you can imagine, because there's literally nothing in existence but you, but then you know that you are the energy of everything occurring. And so even as I'm within eye gazing in a mirror with no memory of a past, no sense of self, reconfiguring my neurobiology, not knowing what could exist in the future because I have yet to create it. There's this sense of oneness and unity and wholeness. And within that wholeness, unity, and oneness, you can actually experience more fulfillment because you know that the fulfillment comes from the totality of your own existence that precedes the individuated expression of it.
So, on that note, I have a couple of questions for you. I love all of this. Number one, just for the audience to help understand your journey, as of you in this moment right now, is there a moment in time in your past where you cannot remember anything previous to that moment in time? Or can you not remember anything from this moment in time sitting in front of me and everything in the past? What does that look like?
Yeah. Yes, perfect question. Thank you. So it was around autumn 2021 that memories started to be created that had a sense of self-ish, but still very little memory of the past. And then I used this one singular healing modality to transform everything I've described and everything I'm about to describe, like split brain hemispheres, brainwave dysregulation, nervous system dysregulation, cranial nerve dysfunction, severe nervous system dysregulation, so bad that it had actually led to oxygen deprivation, like literally chronic oxygen deprivation for several years. I was on an oxygen tube for a couple years, over 700 hours of oxygen therapy. The memory loss, not remembering the traumas and not being able to look back at them without somatically reliving them, not remembering the good things of life and the fact that in between all the hardships and the struggles and the growth and the challenges are these beautiful moments of joy, not remembering my childhood and the good memories from it. All of the fragments of sensations from unprocessed experiences, from trauma and from the years of anterograde amnesia, where every moment was basically being processed as a fragment of experience or in like a trauma state. All of that was healed with one modality. And I used that one singular modality to then also heal all of this. And without ever needing to look back at past experiences, I recovered, rewrote, reorganized, repurposed, and recreated my lifetime of experiences. And now my memory is so sharp, I'll frequently be like, oh yeah, that was like this one time when this thing happened. And I'm just like, how do you remember that? Like, I don't even remember that. And they've been in perfect health. And so my memory is sharp as can be. There are still some glitches, particularly with positive experiences from earlier in life, especially childhood. But those are the most important ones to me. So I actively work to reconnect with them on a somatic daily basis. And so now, and to answer the question before, the version of me that exists here and now, and I continue to emphasize the inner co-creation of this on a daily basis, is there was me from childhood, from 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 age-wise. And then there's me now in a brand new beginning of life. And so I speak in the third person for everything in between because it's not me. It has nothing to do with me. It has absolutely nothing to do with who I am, what I'm worth, what I'm capable of, and the way that I associate with my own existence. Like, I have no association with ever living with trauma-related health conditions. That will never be a part of my sense of self ever again. Decades of complex trauma, decades of intensive healing, and it has nothing to do with who I am now. And I can feel that on a somatic level in my body, mind, soul unity and the way I experience my own existence on a daily basis. And that's like the ultimate goal. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. I'm just in awe of you and your story. It's incredible.
And I have a question for you, Kristen. If you don't know anything about this, we're not going to incorporate it in the podcast, but I have to ask this because this is an Akashic Records thing. Do you know anything about being a walk-in soul? And do you think that's been part of your experience?
Describe walk-in soul. I'm not familiar with that phrasing, but I think I know some of what it refers to.
An aspect of your higher self walking into your body at a point in time in your journey, which has led you to experiencing a completely different form of reality versus what you've experienced in the past.
I love that. Yes, in a sense. And I'll describe what it is, and then you can let me know how to, if it resonates or what to clarify. There was a very specific Kundalini awakening in autumn 2018. And it was really epic because there was just so much disconnection and everything with stuff. Instead of it being like the energy of a snake, which just had a lot of kind of misinterpreted connotations at the time, the divine had the energy of spiraling honey. And that really nourished our inner child through the intensity of the energy shift. And one of the states of consciousness, when there was the experience of alternate states in this very intensive, trauma response, basically is what it is, was named Davina. And she was the representation of the higher self that remained unaffected by the traumas. And so there's all these trauma states of the inner child being fragmented, all these trauma states of coping during teenagehood and early life, all these trauma states carrying the intensity of the trauma sensations, all these trauma states of this is who I am when I can function, being separate from all the intensities of it. And then there was the state of consciousness that literally was the higher self. And at her presence, the brain and the body acted like a full unified state. And it was through that there were these divine downloads of, this is how you heal this. This is how you understand this. This is the next book you need to read. This is the next video to watch. This is the note you need to take. This is the 6-hour meditation you need to lead yourself on. This is the test of trust that will lead you through what's going to come next week. And so the whole journey was completely independent, but there were so many complications to it beyond anything you can fathom. But there was this divine guidance. And the journey that I understand now was the birthing of a modality that will revolutionize humanity for the decades and centuries to come. And it was only through that journey that something like this could come into existence.
Yeah.
And by studying the neuroscientific application of the most divided state of being, the who that you are, you can understand what creates the full unity that we are now ascending into.
Yes. 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 And so I would love to dive more into your experience with the different modalities that you work with, and especially the somatic piece of things, because that's a huge part of the work that you do. So with what you shared, it sounds like a lot of your journey in helping you process your trauma and navigating things that you couldn't remember was letting yourself physically feel and connect to the emotional and felt sense experiences of what you had been through. So is that correct? Am I on the right track? And also, what did that somatic journey look like?
Yes, perfect. So let's start by saying, what are somatic emotions? Because that's a phrase that can kind of be thrown around like, what is that? Like, different connotations to it. So there could be other reference point for what that phrase actually means. But for my inner understanding of it and the way that I use it, somatic emotion is a feeling that flows through and so impacts and is impacted by all 4 bodily systems. So mental, emotional, physical, or somatic, and energetic or ethereal. And so a feeling that is entwining all of them at the same time. And so it's not just an emotion, because you can just like have an emotion and it's just your hormones. You can have an emotion and it's just a thought that you thought about something that has an emotional tie to it. You can have a somatic feeling, but it's not necessarily connected with your mental body or your emotional body. It's just something that's kind of somatically happening in your physical body. You can have a somatic emotion, but it's purely physical and not actually attuned with the essence of your consciousness or divinity or soul self. And so the somatic emotion, the phrase that I use it in reference to, is this feeling, this energy, this vibration, this frequency, this sensation where it is an energy flow that then becomes manifested in a personal experience, a feeling that is flowing through all four bodies simultaneously, and thus is impacting all four bodies and also being impacted by all four bodies. And so one of the complications, if you will, of working with somatic emotions is, where did it actually originate from? And how do I reclaim power within it? Because if you think of thought that's very negative, that's going to ripple in and impact your emotions and your physical regulation and the way you connect with your soul self. If there's something happening in your body, that's going to ripple out into, everything else. And so part of the journey is, how do you discover where it's actually coming from and what to do about it? And so somatic emotions are, and so like in this present moment, for example, right? Like we're sitting here talking, but there's an energy flow happening in all four bodies simultaneously. Like for me, for example, there's the mental plane where I have the logic and the awareness and the information of what I'm communicating, and it vibrates with a certain feeling, a feeling of purpose and passion and leadership. And, this is what I'm here for, and my dharma, and being in service to you and your audience. And there's that kind of mental plane. And then there's the emotional plane that has feelings like, I'm so grateful to connect with another human being and to be able to share this. And there's just this feeling of fulfillment and expansion. And then there's the physical plane of like my actual body being able to sit and comfortably be relaxed in a chair and feel a somatics of, comfort and ease and the sensation of the clothes I'm wearing and the posture I'm in. And then there's the ethereal body of like, none of this is actually the me. Then there's the actual me who's expressing through those and attuning with that electromagnetic field of pure consciousness that is the soul self that precedes the manifestation of its unique essence and energy within the experience, embodiment, expression, and expansion of its being. And so the energy flow, the feeling that's unifying all of that. And with the somatic emotions, the purpose is to experience the aliveness of you. Like you look at any moment of life, anything we desire, anything we're going through, anything that we are experiencing that we don't want, anything we are experiencing that we do want, like at the foundation of all of it is a somatic emotion. And if you're in a moment of absolute misery, it's because of the somatic emotion. If you're in a moment of absolute ecstasy, it's because of the somatic emotion. If you're wanting to heal and transform, if you're wanting to call something and manifest it, it all comes back to it. They give life meaning. They give life meaning. And then in another reference point too, there's like the self-healing journey. There's, spiritual awakening, personal development, and then, manifestation and co-creation. I know that's something that you discuss on your show a lot. And all of that also comes to the somatic emotions because we are transmuting the energy to expand into something new. And so if you have like a manifestation practice, the ultimate goal is to experience a somatic emotion, not just a visual scene in your mind, not just an emotion that's not embodied, not just attunement with your soul that's not grounded, not just being grounded in your body without the vision and the feeling, but to have that in full unity. That was the first piece. What was the next question?
I love it. And what that brings to mind for me is I feel like so many of us have been on a journey where we are learning how to stop our patterns of dissociation and learn how to feel our feelings that we may have blocked out or blocked off for a large part of our life. So for someone out there who has a fear or feels nervous around feeling and letting themselves feel again, what guidance would you give for someone who may be in that place?
I love that. Yes. Say it one more time.
For someone who has a lot of fear around letting their emotions flow through them and feeling the feelings, what advice or guidance would you give them?
Perfect. So if we may, I would love to share about that one modality that changed my life.
Yes.
Because that is the best thing, because through it, we don't need to work with all the scary stuff. And I think that's part of what stops us is like, okay, there's this fear. I have to face the fear. Facing the fear is scary. I get stuck in the fear. I get stuck in avoiding the fear. And that is the obvious approach, but it actually misses the whole point and the whole purpose. And I think that's the most beautiful part about this journey and about the work that I love to share is the journey is something different that transmutes all of it, but without the ickiness and the scariness and the hardness and the stuckness, the badness.
Yeah. Yes.
And so there was a point where my inner evolutionary hero, past version of self, and I love that I can actually remember this because this was starting to heal the amnesia. But she was just sitting there and she kind of looked at herself in a mirror during one of her mirror thoughts. And she's like, I got a mirror over here. She's like, nope, I can't do this. This isn't going to work for me. I've been 24/7 healing for years and things got worse and worse and worse, which they needed to be fair, because she was dedicated to the total transformation, the evolution of her soul and her highest dharma and transmuting, decades, lifetimes, generations of karma. Like it was it. But she's just like, nah, like I'm ready for life to be juicy and good and fun and magical. And recognizing how much healing there is to do. Like there's still all this anxiety. There's still all this kind of disconnection, still needing to get reunified mind and body. Couldn't remember life. Like it's just, the past 5 years had been processed as trauma responses with all these fragments of sensation. Like literally try to look back at what happened last month, last year, 2 years ago. And it was like full body somatic sensations that completely unground you, like level of just constant experiencing existence. And so she looked in the mirror, it's just like, no, I can't do this. I need a brain incubator. I need some magical tool where I just kind of put my brain over here in the brain incubator, kind of like, something that incubates eggs. And it's just like this cute little cozy space of warm light. And just being in the presence of that light magically grows life. And you can just passively receive the transformation. So I'm just going to stick my brain in the brain incubator, let it incubate some new neural networks, rewire all these pathways of like trillions of energy pathways. And then when the brain incubator timer goes up, I'm just going to stick my brain back in and I'm going to go live my magical ass life. And okay, so how do I create this? Bring it, universe. Bring it, higher destiny. Bring it, soul self. Like I did not incarnate into this body and choose decades of radical evolution beyond human comprehension to not have some kind of magic come through this. And that's what led to creating the subconscious unveiling and transformation techniques, one of my more advanced modalities. And by looking in a mirror, you can do a brain spotting techniques that unveil the activity of that disintegrated data, the data that needs to be processed, the data that's causing the fear or the whatever's coming up. And you just rewire it on the spot in like a quantum instant and reunify with aspects of self. And you get to quantum leap into expanded energies of love. Long story short, without going into it. So how I would guide someone, or the general message I'd love to share is that the journey of it is about nourishing the relational connection you have with yourself. And so the one modality that changed everything, which is included in the marathons, but it's also included in a lot of practices you do in everyday moments, is recreating the journey of attachment development. And that is a relational journey. And so before you experience anxiety, before there was trauma, before there was fear, before there was a mind-body disconnect, before there was a mental or emotional health challenge, before there was any of this, go all the way back to the very beginning of your life and know that there is this infant, this toddler, and this young child that was you. And there wasn't any energy of that. You were not in a state of fear before there was experiences that taught you somatic separation of love. There was no anxiety before your body learned to experience a somatic separation from the love that it is. And infants are a great example of still being in full union with source. Saw something the other day that was like, the reason that babies are so like looking everywhere and like, woo, is because they're still connected with source and not fully in their spiritual expression. I mean, part of that is the stage of brain development that they're in, which is my stance for neuroscience, but it was a beautiful spiritual take on the one with source. They're in full somatic union with love. And when you're in full somatic union with love, you don't need anything else. You can exist, and that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so the journey that changed everything for me, the journey that healed everything I shared, dozens of mental health disruptions, decades of complex trauma, disabling health challenges, the depths of the worst you could experience, recovered my lifetime of memories without needing to look back, but then repurpose them so they no longer negatively impact me. All of it was just a journey of repairing the attachment development or the attachment systems of body, mind, and soul. And so as that infant or toddler or young child, you literally and figuratively look up to another person and believe them to be the source of love that can fulfill your needs.
Mm-hmm.
I am seen, I am loved, I am supported, I am sustained, safe, secure, protected, provided for, connected. I am treasured, celebrated. I am valued and wanted. I have belonging and respected. I'm embraced. There's purpose and importance to my being because of the social engagement I have with this other person that is the source of love. And that relational journey actually creates our neurodevelopment, bridges the brain hemispheres, bridges the triune brain, bridges the energy states of our nervous system, bridges conscious and unconscious memories, bridges mind, body, and soul. And then we learn a state of navigating and regulating our own existence. And so with all of those challenges that through my Implicit Revelations case study, it was, okay, there's obviously too much to heal by going into every single one individually. How can I continually quantum leap this in a loving way that's not bypassing anything or the cause of anything, but actually getting deeper into the foundational roots of it? And all of it was just a disruption of navigation and regulation. Regulation being, the cranial nerves, the brain waves, the brain hemispheres, the nervous system, all the regulatory states. The navigation especially comes from unconscious memories, which includes body memories that are then affecting your thoughts, feelings, inner dialogue, self-talk, emotions, feelings, responses, habits, choices, sense of self, personality, identity. And it's the structures that precede that. And so it's like, okay, there's, maybe like 500 disruptions in navigation and regulation. So we're getting somewhere. That's 2 systems instead of 500 symptoms, right? Mm-hmm. But what holds together the navigation and the regulation? And can I figure out that foundation and just rebuild that? And the analogy I love to use is you wake up in your house and suddenly there's like cracks all in your baseboard. Maybe it's 1 crack of anxiety. Maybe it's 50 cracks of anxiety, depression, insomnia, night terrors, eating disorders, OCD, like all these different things. But there's all these cracks in your baseboard. And you're like, I have to fix the cracks in my baseboard. And your focus is on the cracks in the baseboard. So you get the putty, you get the ladder, you do the thing, you fix what you notice to be the problem. And then the next day, all the cracks resurface. And then I'm like, hey, let's leave the room. And you're like, no, I have these cracks to fix. I have these symptoms that are screaming at me and this problem I need to transform, the fear, the anxiety, whatever it might be. I need to focus on the problem so I can fix the problem. And I'm like, hang on, just take a breath. Come with me to the other room. But why? The problem's in here. I need to just come with me to the other room. You leave the room. Go down the hallway, go down the other hallway, go through this other room, and then you enter into the hole in the ground that leads you into the not the basement, but the underneath the house, the foundation of the house. And you go to the crawl space underneath the house. And then you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. This has nothing to do with the cracks in the baseboard. I need to go fix the crack. Why am I underneath the house? There's no relationship. And then you go and you find that there's a place in the foundation of the house where something is off kilter. Maybe something's disconnected. Maybe something is, uneven and unlevel, but there's some kind of disruption in the foundation of the house. And because the house is tilting or whatever the issue is, that's what's causing the cracks in the baseboard. But you never would have thought to go to the foundation of the house to fix something that seems so unrelated. And so then you do the work in the foundation of the house, you re-level it, you fix up what's disconnected, you go back up, you do some superficial repairs on the cracks in the baseboard, but then they never return, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm talking for months and years and decades when you were going day by day focused on the cracks in the baseboard. It's exactly like that with our inner realities. If there's a disruption in our mind, body, soul, feeling disconnected from the essence of who you are, feeling disconnected from the essence of life, feeling disharmony between masculine, feminine energy flows, feeling disruptions in your mind and your body. Your mind's always chattering or not being present or still, or your body feels really uncomfortable to be in. Maybe you're not fully associated with your body or grounded in your body or connected with it, or it just feels really uncomfortable and like a lot of work you don't want to focus on. Or, you can't look back at past experiences without being grounded in the now, because there's these fragments of unprocessed sensations of experience, or your sense of self is defined by those experiences and you don't know the fullness of your essence independently of that. If there's disruptions in mental and emotional health, like it comes up in so many ways. But when there's any disruption of the inner reality, it has nothing to do with the cracks in the baseboard, but it won't feel like it'll be logical to focus on that. And so we go to the foundation. So what actually affects the navigation and the regulation? And so the way I was able to self-heal the impossible and transform hundreds of challenges simultaneously in a pretty accelerated state. Like, yes, it took time showing up every day and it wasn't easy. But in comparison to some people who might, for example, be in different therapies for 20 years and never actually...
And different medications and,
right,
like
exactly.
You said, slapping a Band-Aid on the baseboard versus going to the foundation. Yeah.
Exactly. And so, in comparison with that, it was a very accelerated journey, going from not even knowing there was suppressed trauma to uncovering the details of it and piecing together in a year. And from going from uncovering it to being in the depths of reliving it to 100% transmutation of it within a year. And then from total repair of all the structures to processing all the halted neurodevelopment and rebuilding the brain and the body in a year. And going from not remembering my whole life to having a sense of self that feels more like me than ever in a year from this one modality. And so when we're in the journey, honor the cracks in the baseboard, notice them, but then leave the room and go check out the foundation. What are the structures of your internal attachment systems? And I'll explain this a little because it uses terms that aren't going to be familiar. But when you can explore this, it will change everything. And it will change it in such a beautiful way. It will bring you to an awe-striking, humbled, expanded state of love that transcends anything you could have imagined. Because when you're in the depths of that challenge and that darkness, it can feel, through somatic emotions, it can feel absolutely impossible to connect with any energy of unconditional love, much less to have that be a natural state and to be able to experience the fullness of that expressed. Because unconditional love is boundless joy, infinite freedom, transcendent peace, sacred presence, and to have that be your natural state of navigation and regulation, that can feel impossible. That can feel absolutely impossible. And so not about the cracks in the baseboard, notice them, but then go look at the foundation. So the attachment development started in early life, and you looked to an outside source through social engagement and believed them to be the source of love that could fulfill what you needed and to allow you to experience the love that you are and the love that you deserve. And that relational journey actually built the structures of navigation and regulation based on those social interactions in relation with your inner needs. Your nervous system learned to be regulated. Your brain waves learned to be regulated. Your brain hemispheres learned to connect. Your triune brain learned to connect. Your unconscious memories learn to get processed. And so if there's, for example, a trauma sensation that ends up being fully processed, it's because of a relational journey that transmuted that energy where you felt the somatic fulfillment of your inner needs in a way that changed the energy into something new and thus changed your experience into something new. But we can actually learn to do that for ourselves. And that's what I lead my clients through. I'm not here to be a healer. I'm here to activate your inner power and awareness to guide you to receive the tools that are yours by divine right. You deserve to have power and awareness within you always, to never need to give your power to another person to achieve the healing or transformation you need. And then to use that power to expand for the rest of your life, not just to heal what's wrong, but to experience more of the magic that is the truth of you, ever evolving, ever expanding for the decades to come. And that's like the ultimate journey, is to know that power from within. And so it's the relational journey, the navigation, regulation. It's all based on the foundation of attachment systems. And so through my body, mind, soul attachment theory, through my Trifecta Treasure Trove modalities, it is not related with what is typically known by attachment theory. The attachment theory that's commonly discussed is like tip of the iceberg, teeny tiny fraction of what's actually happening. I believe it's more focused on like your attachment style, and there's like a few different ways of describing it, and it affects your relational connections with other people. That's like, it's just doesn't do it justice of what's actually happening. So,
and for not to interrupt you, but just so the listener knows, so they're on track here, you're referring to the attachment theory, avoidant attachment, anxious attachment, fearful avoidant, dismissive avoidant, all of those things. So what you're saying is that that's just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more that goes into it.
Yeah, exactly. Because those are basically patterns of navigation and regulation that are affecting relation with these inner foundations. But when we understand those deeper foundations, it opens up so much more than just what that understanding can do. So the attachment systems within my models are, there's an attachment system, quote unquote, or a relational connection is another phrase that can be used in the same way. A relational connection or an attachment system or an attachment bond between the brain hemispheres. And that happens through the corpus callosum. And so when there's an imbalance of masculine, feminine energies, for example, it's usually because those brain hemispheres aren't connected. And then you're either stuck in the masculine of logic and analytic and the mind and the step-by-step process, or you're stuck in the feminine where you're just energy and just flow, and you're so empathetic and you're so connected, and there's this great energy flow, and you're very spontaneous and very creative and very expressive, but there's no like structure and stuff. And so the journey of unifying those energies is the journey of repairing the attachment bond or attachment system or relational connection between the brain hemispheres, rebuilding the corpus callosum, reharmonizing the energy flows of consciousness in your brain hemispheres. And then there's this attachment system or relational connection between the front, middle, and back parts of our brain. And that connects kind of our mental body, emotional body, and physical body through the energy of our ethereal body, or the soul essence flowing through each of those systems in relation with different brain regions. And so when you want to heal that, it has to do with the quote unquote attachment system in the triune brain, for example. The nervous system has an attachment system to it because there's different energy states, and the ability to smoothly transition between them depends on the relational connection within the nervous system itself. And then the ability to be in a present moment and know about your past, but not relive it, and have reference to it, but not be defined by it, has to do with the relational connection between the you now and the you there, and the conscious memories and the unconscious memories, and like all of it coming together. And then the essence of the self is flowing through all those structures, the brain, the body mind, the unconscious memories, the patterns of feeling and movement, like all of it. And then for this aspect of the soul and this aspect of the soul to be like, oh my goodness, we're like one, but we're like distinct, but we're unified and we're expressed and we're connected, to have that, it's a relational connection. And so there's specific needs that determine the well-being of these attachment systems. So I'll share those attachment needs, but first, do you have any questions about any of that?
I just want to be aware of time here, because we need to make sure the episode is like 50 to 60 minutes, and we're kind of bumping up against that. So I want to get into a little bit about what your client journey looks like, so you can talk about your business. So, okay. So I'm going to ask the question now for my editor to know when to start here. I would love if you could share with us a little bit about what your client journey looks like and the processes that you take them through, because obviously you know so much and there's so much here and there's so many different levels and layers to it. So if you could share with us just a bit about what a client could expect and what that journey of transformation looks like.
Perfect. Thank you. Yes, this is a perfect transition. So attachment needs that bridge those systems, and then I'll segue into that perfectly, is I look at 4 different attachment systems, and they each have specific needs. And a few of those needs include the need to feel seen, loved, treasured, cherished, appreciated, celebrated, valued, wanted, with belonging, safety, security, support, connection, respect, embrace, allowance, permission to be you, allowance to be you, opportunity, space, direction, guidance, purpose, and importance. And based on the well-being of those inner needs, there's connections and relational connections throughout all of those systems that affect the navigation and regulation that impacts our mind, body, soul unity. And so the journeys that I lead my clients through, it's exploring the structures of those inner realities and how it's affecting personal experience. So if there's a sensation of experience, what's happening in those inner structures of body, mind, soul, unity, using creative collisions between neuroscience and consciousness in a really, really simplified way to understand the sensations of experience. And for that, I use an original technique I've developed called body, mind, soul treasure mapping. We draw these colorful, fun little diagrams where you literally get to treasure map the miracles of you. And then you can say, oh, when I'm feeling anxiety, it's this pattern in my unconscious memory that's affecting this aspect of self that's then coming here. And you get to visually see the simplified representation of those deeper insights to understand. And then based on everything that we unveil and discover and your own personal intentions, there's then personalized play prompt prescriptions, daily practices that nourish relational connections within the self and fulfill those attachment needs so you can feel them in your somatic emotions, in your mental, emotional, physical, and energetic bodies in full union. And when you nourish the relational connections between aspects of self by somatically fulfilling those attachment needs, everything changes. But you don't have to look at all the stuff you're changing to transform the foundation of it. And then the advanced journeys go into guided marathon or eye-gazing practices. And so I do offer single sessions for just kind of a quantum leap. And then you end up with all this awareness and treasure maps and these practices to use every day for the weeks forward. The deeper dives are for a 3 or 6 month one-on-one body, mind, soul mentorship. And we dive into all of these. And because we have multiple months that we're working together, your own practices daily and our own sessions weekly, you're able to experience massive transformation at the foundation of everything. And by the end of the journey, have the tools to continue that journey. So it's not just a 3-month journey. This is supporting you for the rest of your life. And you'll experience that continued transformation in the months and years to come.
Wow, that sounds so incredibly powerful. I can't even imagine what that level of transformation would lead to. And I'm really fascinated by this concept of the mirror gazing practices. Is that something that the listener could try on their own? How would you recommend them going about that? Is there just a simple practice that they could do at home on their own time?
Absolutely. I believe there's some simple guided journeys on my YouTube channel. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure those are up there. But a simple way to practice it is there's 2 practices. One is the masculine practice where you're just in presence and your goal is to just experience pure consciousness. And you're not necessarily going for an emotional feeling. You're not necessarily like achieving anything. Your goal is being, and your goal is to get to stillness. And when you reach stillness, you just get lost in your eyes, and that's everything. And there's no thoughts, there's no feelings, there's no disruption of grounded presence, there's no past, there's no future, there's you in full union with your being. And then the more feminine practice is to have on some kind of love song in the background. And the version of you who's in your body is nourishing a relational connection with the you that you see in a mirror. And there's different ways to practice it, but that's kind of the simplification of it. So just play any love song. I have hundreds and hundreds on the playlist I've created for over the years. And the you in your body is expressing the love song to the you in the mirror. And you nourish that relational connection. You help yourself feel seen and loved and safe and supported and valued and wanted and respected and embraced. And you allow that to penetrate your somatic emotions. So you impact past, present, and potential realities simultaneously. You rewire the data from the past, you shift the energy to the present, you expand into the potential energy of all you desire to experience, unifying body, mind, soul, just by nourishing the relational connection you have with yourself.
Well, and I think some people say that mirrors are portals too. So I love the idea that the mirror can be such a portal for expanding your consciousness and inviting in all of these higher aspects of yourself to co-create and coexist with you in the present moment. So that's so beautiful.
Thank you. Yes, I, of course, for time's sake, not going to dive fully into it, but a brief glimpse into the deeper mirror journeys that I use is that when you're looking at your face, when you're looking at your body, when you hear the sound of your voice, when you perceive and receive the essence of your being and its reflection, you will never in your entire life objectively see yourself as you exist. You will always be experiencing a navigational projection or reflection from your body mind. And so how a lifetime of experiences are stored in your body is navigating the who that you see and how you see them in a mirror. And then simultaneously, in the colored region of your eyes, you can connect with the energy and essence of your soul self. And so when you're going through self-healing or soul awakening, there's the journey of attuning with that higher consciousness, that higher frequency, that expanded awareness through the energy of your eyes. And then there's this journey of kind of unveiling and transforming the energies of your body mind that are affecting the way you connect with the who that you are. And so if you look in a mirror and you're like, it's, and then, whatever comes up, judgment or shame or like whatever thoughts or feelings might arise. Oh, that's actually just my body projecting navigation because of a past moment where I was somatically disconnected from love. If I somatically reconnect from love, I can actually rewire that data without having to look at all of its details and then experience the somatic transformation and the expansion of my being from the inside out.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so powerful. And I know for anyone who's navigating body image challenges, that can be a really beautiful place to start is gazing at yourself in the mirror and starting from there and seeing how your relationship with your body starts to transform in those moments.
Absolutely. And with that, having the distinction and connection between the aspects of self really helps, because if you just look in a mirror and you're like, this is me and that's me, and I'm only this one essence that's kind of in this, like, there's no relational. But if you're like, I'm the awareness of me, that's the experiencer of me. How do I have a relationship with them? And not to be disconnected or dissociated, but to have a new style of connecting with them. Because when you look at yourself from a place of pure awareness, there aren't any of those distortions or disruptions. And you can see yourself through the pure lens of consciousness, which is love. And so just like if you see a best friend, doesn't matter if they're having a crappy hair day, doesn't matter, their clothes are all worn, it's not the latest snazzy outfit, doesn't matter if they just got done crying for 5 hours and their cheeks are puffy and they've got no makeup on and they come in and their voice is shaking like, I'm just such a mess today. As a best friend, you just like, I love you and you're perfect. And you start to have a relationship with you like that. And to have a relationship with your inner child, your inner best friend, and your inner romantic life partner. And for those relationships to change the relationship you have with your body. Because if you just try to change the relationship with your body, you might look at the cracks of the house and not go to the foundations. But if you're like, how can I just be with my inner best friend right now? How can I nourish my inner child right now? How can I romance my inner life partner? You're no longer focused directly on the body, but you're transforming the foundation that affects that relationship.
That is so powerful and so profound in such a beautiful way, beautifully said. I would also love to know, one thing I know you're passionate about talking about is how to expand one's experience with positive emotions like joy and ecstasy and those heightened emotions. How can we go about doing that in our daily lives? Do you have any guidance for experiencing that?
My favorite question. I'm so excited you asked that. Yeah, because it's easy to get stuck in all this is the things that are happening and these are the things that how do you just say, I'm ready for joy. I'm ready for ecstasy. I'm ready for awe. I'm ready for magic. I'm ready for miracles. I'm ready for freedom. I'm ready for expansion. I'm ready for that. Oh, but there's these decades of trauma that I'm transforming in this disconnect. I'm ready for magic. So as we nourish the relational connections with ourselves and start to consciously create the fulfillment of our attachment needs. We transmute the somatic emotions that are blocking our access to that, and we expand the energetic capacity to experience that. And so when we're in full body, mind, soul unity, where there is a feeling that's flowing through mental, emotional, physical, and ethereal body simultaneously, and there's this gradual transmutation of the stuck energies from, unprocessed experiences that might be blocking that, then we start to expand into that. And so have a play prompt, which is what I call them. They're practices of play, which takes the heaviness off the inner work. The inner work shouldn't feel like work. And it might take a little while to break through that resistance, but it should feel good. It should feel nourishing. It should feel rewarding. I don't care if you're going through the worst of the worst of the worst of the worst. It should feel good. And that's what allowed me to go through all those years of intensity and be here now is, how can I prescribe myself play? And so in order to get to those expanded states, go on dates with yourself where there's distinction and connection between the aspects of you, the awareness of you, and the experiencer of you, your present moment self, your childhood self, the soul essence of your mind, not your mind itself, but the soul that is flowing through that, the soul essence of your body, the soul essence of your masculine, the soul essence of your feminine, however you want to describe it, or you here and your inner best friend, you here and your inner life partner, you here and your inner child, and go on a relational experience with yourself. So when you go eat food, you're not like, yeah, it's me here and I'm eating another meal because I do this multiple times a day because I literally have to stay alive. Like, this is so, who created this thing? Instead, you're like, I'm going on a picnic date with the love of my life, and to feel that in your somatic emotions. Like, there were times where I did that and I started bawling my eyes out, because when you go to see yourself, when you go to love yourself, you're activating all the energies that navigate that. So you're activating decades where you didn't feel that. You're activating the energy of being somatically disconnected from love, which is blocking the flow of your life, blocking the flow of your energy, blocking the flow of your life force. When you see and love yourself and you feel that in your somatic emotions, it instantly and quantumly transmutes that and reunifies those aspects of self. And then you have this moment, you break through to somatically feeling the fulfillment of your needs, this relational experience within your own self. And then on the other side of that, you're like, I'm alive. The sky is blue. It's the flowers. It's the ecstasy, because you've shifted the flow of your energy in body, mind, and soul. So go on a relational experience with yourself, bike riding, eating food, showering, brushing your teeth, preparing food, going for a drive, literally anything, any moment of your everyday life. You don't even have to set time aside to do something separately, and be in a relational connection with a distinct aspect of you, and start to reunify with the somatic love that you are, to see and love yourself, to feel support from yourself, for yourself, to yourself, with yourself. And when you start to feel the relational connection the way you would if you were with your own child, if you were with your best friend, if you're driving with your best friend and they're like, hey, I'm here, I've got you, like you're okay, you're driving with your romantic partner, they're holding your hand the whole way through. You're not lost in your thoughts. You're not lost in the past. You're lost in the present moment of reunification with love. And so to create that from within, that's a quantum leap into all the yummy, yummy, yummy good feelings we want to have.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I think everyone listening can tell that Kristin's zest for life is contagious. So thank you for bringing that magic here with us today. What does human Kristin have going on in her life? Like, what magic have you created for yourself in your external reality? I would love to hear a little bit about that and how people can find you and work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. External life is still in the process of expansion.
Love it.
Coming out from kind of the other side of the inner transformation, but just creating healthy habits that support body, mind, soul unity, which I've never had the opportunity to do. Like with my body disconnect and projections from traumas and things, I never had the capacity, like physically, mentally, or emotionally, to have a yoga practice where I'm in full presence with stillness in my mind and unity in my body and actually feeling good inside of my body. And so just cultivating those daily practices that really sustain my well-being and expansion is, of course, a beautiful priority. And then building my business and just seeing how I can expand the application and the reach of these modalities. And sorry, one moment. And then just bringing all of that to life. And so taking the concepts and bringing them into this multi-month journey where it can be this total transformation, this inner expansion, and then learning the techniques to not just say, okay, I facilitated this, you're good to go, but to actually be gradually learning it so you can support yourself for the years to come in your inner worlds. And from that, people can absolutely connect through Instagram would be the primary platform. And then there's other little offshoots like my YouTube channel, but Instagram would be the best place. And one of the things that has been really beautiful is that if in terms of what I've created and have enjoyed the journey of creation is over 10,000 hours of speaking and singing to myself in mirrors to rebuild my brain and my body. And through that, creating this journey of my Implicit Revelations Case Study and a video series that actually demonstrates what that process has been. And so there's these video collections from the past 5 years, and there's some from before that, but in terms of case study stuff, especially the past 5 years, 5 to 7 years, and it shows every step of the journey, every step of evolving these modalities. And the most beautiful part of that is that the foundation of these modalities was created before I can remember. 2018, 2019, 2020, no memories being created the modalities. The journey began creating all these video contents, recording videos while I was engaging in a mirror, talking basically to myself through social self-engagement, and recreated the same modalities, but didn't know about it because there was no memory of having created the marathons or the treasure maps or any of them. No memory of it whatsoever. Started from scratch, from square one. And then, a year plus later had finalized them and then was able to look back because there wasn't somatic reliving and be like, this is the exact thing she used to heal, but I couldn't remember it and I couldn't connect because there was all these trauma fragments. And so just to have that within an expression, people can actually explore that freely through a playbook and a video series I have in my free libraries. It's one of the links on my website. And you can explore that and just to see the journey of how these exact modalities carried me through all that transformation, but they're now the same modalities I use to expand and experience more awe, magic, joy, wonder, freedom, bliss, like all the beauty of life that felt impossible before.
Oh, wow. Yes. I can't wait to check those out. That's so incredible and so cool. So thank you for sharing that magic with us. And of course, we have to know, I would love to hear your thoughts, Kristen, on what does being a mystic mean to you?
I love that. Yes. Being a mystic to me means that your body, your mind, your mental, emotional, physical, and energetic bodies, the unified expression of you is fully connected and reflecting the essence and energy of your soul. So often here's my mind, and then I have emotions over here, and my body's getting grounded here, and I'm not attuned to my soul. And there's all these they're not unified. And then even if they are, they're often a reflection of experience of those past patterns of programming, or I went through all these experiences and now it has this energy inside of me, and that's how I experience my existence. And so the mystical life is where you awaken to your soul and rebirth your inner realities from your soul through unconditional love into profound wholeness, where there's complete unity of these 4 body systems, unity of body, mind, soul, and they reflect the essence and energy of your soul, which if, you've gone through a lot of not good things, has nothing to do with what you experience, but everything to do with the truth of who you are.
Yes. And what are some tips for the audience for living a more mystical life?
Absolutely. I love that. Going on those relational experiences with yourself and nourishing the somatic love that you are so that you can have that unity inside of you and start to know and cultivate and expand into the essence of who you are, and to practice that every day. You're unloading a dishwasher, and instead of just being a person in a body, unloading a dishwasher, you're the essence of your soul and this awareness facilitating a relational encounter between the part of you who is unloading the dishwasher and in the experience of that, and the part of you who is witnessing that and falling in love with yourself, just being your own best friend, nourishing your inner child, being your own romantic inner life partner. And when you have these relational experiences within yourself and you expand into the ecstatic love and liberated wholeness of your true self and have this greater unity and rebirthing those inner realities, life becomes mystical. And that's where the dragonfly randomly comes in and hovers in front of your face, because it's attuned with the energy that you're emitting. And the owl comes over late at night and does circles around your head. And it's just like, where did this come from? But as you start to nourish those relational connections and rebirth yourself through that love, it changes your being from the inside out.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to go make lunch after this, and I'm going to take myself on a date because that sounds wonderful. So thank you. We love this. Such a great idea. Such great guidance. Is there anything that we didn't touch on today that you feel called to share, or any last messages?
One final thing I would say is that no matter who you are, where you're at, whether there's stuff that's really disrupting your well-being and you're like, I'm ready to dive deeper into that healing and transmute it and get to the foundation and actually reshape it and not just cover up the symptoms of it, or you're doing like super, super well and you're ready for expansion. It could be a little bit of both. You're ready for expansion, to up-level your identity, to express yourself in your outer life in a more expansive way, to expand your capacity for somatic emotions and feeling the essence of life deeply in a regulated state. And, whatever it might be, the somatic emotions that we desire to experience, which includes transmuting the ones we don't want to have, is always an inner journey. And so even the things that feel very external, like emotional fulfillment in a relationship or emotional fulfillment in your work or any type of fulfillment through a somatic emotion, feeling freedom or peace or abundance or bliss or pleasure or play or ecstasy or just whatever it is, it's always an inside job. Even if you're calling in the reflection of it, it's always from within. And when you can start to prioritize creating that from within on a daily basis, you repattern yourself to expand. You repattern the past, you shift the present, you expand into the potential. And then everything outside becomes more delicious and dynamic. And so, like, beginning of our conversation, when I went to that concert, I'm able to have a deeper level of presence, joy, freedom, bliss, just connection in all of me, connection with the moment, like all of it. The experience externally is amplified a trillion-fold because of the energy cultivated from within. And so when you can have a daily practice and a conscious priority of nourishing the somatic emotions that unify your body, mind, soul, and specifically reconnect you with the ecstatic love and liberated wholeness of your true self, that is hands down just the everythingness, the game changer, the mic drop, the shooting star in the sky, the everythingness that can really change the game on every level.
Such a beautiful way to wrap it up and bring it full circle. So thank you. Thank you for bringing your high dimensional wisdom and knowledge to us here today on the Emily the Mystic Show. We're so grateful for you, Kristen.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for this space to share. And it's just an absolute honor to connect and share with you today.